Hello and welcome to another episode of Foundation with Steve Teed. Here I ask you that one important question. What are you building your life on? What is it that is the foundation for your life that you use to answer those questions that are meaning in life? Because there are a lot of issues in this world. There's a lot of things going on that we have to begin to understand. And without a solid foundation, how do we navigate this? How do we deal with this? And of course, here on this show, I completely advocate that the firm foundation of Jesus Christ is all that is needed. And so that's what I do here. I help build on that solid foundation. I look at news stories that question the foundation that is being pushed to try to get us off that foundation. And I try to help us reestablish ourselves, to be aware of what is out there, to make sure those cracks don't form in the foundation of our faith, and may we be stronger in it. So let's cut back the music. And I'll tell you where we're going to go today. Today's episode, I'm going to call it, well, let's go, They're Not Even Hiding It Anymore. One of the favorite games here when I teach the youth that they love to play at nighttime, particularly in the winter because it's dark, and for some, they hardly ever come to the building, is they love to play hide and go seek. They like to hide and go seek. Now, they love to play that game, and I try to get them to play others, but like before I even had a chance, and when I finished the last lesson, the last session we had, one kid put up their hand. I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "Can we play hide and go seek again?" Like, that's not on topic, but why not? We can play it a bit later. And why? Because they just love the ability to go find and go seek. Do you know what makes hide and go seek not fun? Is where you stand there and you count. And you count to whatever, be it 30, 100, and you turn around and everybody's just standing there. And you go, well, that was an easy game. And you go, well, that's not any fun. Well, truthfully, what we're talking about today is not about fun. But it's about the fact that issues that used to be what you call controversial, not to say that they're not controversial today, the ones that used to be controversial, and they used to come up with rules and try to come out, and they'd use what's called the Mott-Bailey fallacy. Mott-Bailey fallacy, if you're not familiar with that is, it's called Castle Marketplace fallacy. It means what they do is they throw out this really weak argument, that's the marketplace, that anybody could destroy, and it's not even defensible. And then what do when somebody comes at? They run back to the Bailey, to the castle, and they run to the castle. And this really strong argument. And what we're going to talk about today, we're going to be a little over the map. You're going to see how do these connect. But there's two issues that are kind of there. And I'm going to pick on one that's probably going to get me in trouble. If you've wondered why there haven't been that many videos on YouTube, and they've been on other sources a little bit, is because YouTube has really started to crack down on what they deem as misinformation. And if I tell you what it is, it would flag this video too, but it's not misinformation. In fact, I put the same information on another platform, and people actually thought it was really funny because I thought it was funny as well. And so one of the other ones that are looking up is in this topic that I'm going to talk about, and they may classify this misinformation, which would make another strike. It's gotten really interesting. But we're going to talk about the abortion issue a little bit. And that's a classic Mott-Bailey argument. And what the argument was, what do you mean, what about the argument? Well, they've removed the argument from the idea of the personhood of a baby in the womb, even when they want to call fetus, which is just Latin for little person. They've moved it from that, and they've put it all to women's rights. And what that means is they want to rob women of medical care. They want to make it so women can't get medical care wherever. And that's not true. That's what I call the Mott-Bailey fallacy. They're not saying you can't do this, not saying you can't have that. The issue isn't even about medical care. It's not saying women can't get medical care. It's about something completely different. And if you're familiar, we're going to unpack that a little bit. So we're going to talk about the abortion issue. So that's one. That's when I say they're not even hiding it anymore, I'm going to explain what that means once we get into there. And then we're going to jump on over to something that is called Returning to Sinai, a prophetic call for climate justice and ceremony of repentance. That is coming up Sunday, November the 13th at COP27 UN Climate Conference. And I'm going to unpack that a little bit. You say, what does that have to do with anything? What do you mean they're not hiding anymore? It's something that's very fascinating in this article, and it's something that I think we've got to be aware of. So we're going to talk about that. Then I'm probably going to do 2 this week. When I do 3, it puts it a little long. So we'll do 2. And then we'll come back after the break. I haven't made a new commercial yet, so I'm going to continue to push PureFlix a little bit. So you'll get that in the break. And then we'll come back, and I want to talk about the Earth. I'm going to talk about the Earth. What about the Earth? Let's talk about Earth. It's a nice little place. I happen to live there. Pretty sure you do too if you're listening to this. And so we're going to talk about Earth, and then we'll come on back. So let's get into our first story here. And since it's my little show here, I like to put music. So I'm going to pull it up here. All right. So now this one's a little bit different. So I'm like, okay, what are we going to talk about when it comes to abortion? And news on it. And I am going to do a news article, but it's not kind of the news article you would think of. I'm actually going to combine a news article with a video. And you say, well, what do you mean they're not hiding it anymore? So let's talk about what they're not hiding in abortion. And look at a news article here, but just give me a second on that. Let me cut that back. So although I played the news article music there first, that's not where we're going. When you dive into the debate on abortion, and this is a true figure here, the argument used to be, and used to counteract and say, well, what about, and they list specific issues. And they would often be rape, incest, and mother's life in danger. And that's often what they like to talk about. And so they would argue that this is what where you go, Mott and Bailey defense fallacy as well. And I remember watching a debate with Ben Shapiro, who was younger, and a girl questioned him. And he called it a debate. It was kind of a talk back and forth. And she said, well, what about these cases? And he goes, okay, can we have a discussion here just for a second? She's like, what if I take those specific instances and sit them off to the side? I said, so let's take those and sit them off to the side, and let's go to the other one, which is about a woman wanting an abortion simply because so it doesn't mess up her life, from her definition of mess up her life. He's like, would you agree, outside of those things, that abortion is wrong? And then her response was, well, no. And he's like, then you're not being honest. What you really want is you want an argument for all of it. You want unlimited access. And that's really what has happened here. But the argument's actually changed nowadays. You say, well, how has it changed? Well, there's 2 things that are going on here. And this one, I do want to pull up an article. And the article here is from Bloomberg. It's called Business Week and Equity. So look, how an abortion changed my life. 10 women share their stories. Now, I'm going to tell you right up straight front, this is propaganda. Now you say, what is propaganda? Propaganda happens all the time. It really does. Propaganda happens all the time. Everywhere you look is propaganda. It happens in movies, commercials, TVs. And truthfully, it happens so much you don't even realize it happens. You just come to accept it. I was listening to a podcast by Creation Ministries International. Maybe I'll throw a commercial in for them one of these days. And it was their podcast on the drawing of the ape to man evolution. I'm sure you've seen it. Simpsons did a parody of it. They do parody of it in certain memes, where it shows like an ape here, and then it goes through step by step by step by step until it eventually ends up in a man. And you see that everywhere. You don't even think to question it. They just kind of put it there. But if you go and you listen to the podcast or watch it, they will show you from the actual original documents how they admit that a lot of that's made up. It really is. It's made up. And even the so-called fossils in between are like such basic fossils. And what I mean by that is like one is like a small piece of a jawbone. The whole thing, I think it was Lucy. I think it was Lucy that they called it. They derived the entire made-up skeleton based on a toe, on a toe bone. How can you do that? I don't know. But that's what they did, and they show that it's fake. But you see it so much. And so that's propaganda. That's what it is. You just see it. And this is what's happening in our movies and our media, where they're just putting, and they're doing it generally with the LGBTQ and transgenderism now. They're just pushing it. And they just kind of put it in the background until you absolutely accept it. So this is abortion propaganda. Remember I said that they argue that, hey, it was all about the woman's life's in danger and things like that. Well, it's not that way anymore. It's not that way anymore. You look, this article is not even that old. This is August 3rd, and it was corrected on August 4th of this year. And so I want to unpack a little bit here. So they're always arguing about the Roe v. Wade, that kind of thing. But let's unpack this a little bit. I want to read a little bit about each one. And what I want you to look at is their reasoning. Is their reasoning for why they wanted an abortion. Because they're obviously advocating, and this is pushing, like, why abortion is a good thing. So I guarantee you that in this article, that when they're talking about abortion changing their life, it's always for the better. It's always for the better. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I just want to touch on each woman here. So let's unpack it a little bit here. Elizabeth Stone, who's an author and a journalist, and she tells her story. She was 19 years old, a college senior in Berkeley, home for the holiday in Brooklyn, New York. I had a boyfriend in graduate school in Indiana, and I had gone to visit him over Thanksgiving, so I knew exactly how pregnant I was. Okay, and then she's going to talk about the fact, given it's that age, how she went about getting an abortion, and why it should be without any problems. But let me jump down a little bit here. It says, I was graduating with honors, and I had a number of invitations to apply to graduate school. What lay ahead, which largely did come to pass, would have been completely decimated had I not had an abortion. So why did she really get an abortion? Because she says the child would have messed up her plans, her life. No. Where was the actual problem brought up? Where did the actual problem happen? Oh, way back here. When she was in graduate school, home for Thanksgiving. That's when it was. So she had sex. Now, she doesn't say if she used a condom or anything, but she said she had sex, she got pregnant, and what does she admit? That would have messed up my life. And so, therefore, I had an abortion. And then she said, I had both my children in my 30s, not when I was 19. My husband and I were financially solvent. We were able to put our children through college. Now, that's a good thing. But why did she have the abortion? Was it because of a medical issue? Was it because of the life of the mother? Was it rape? Was it incest? Wasn't rape. She says she knew what she was doing. Wasn't incest. It was a boyfriend. Her life wasn't in danger physically. Convenience. Convenience. That's what it was. It was just convenience. Now, this one here, Ivory Matthews. In her case, this is medical. So the first time I was 6 months pregnant, and the baby I was carrying along no longer thriving. Now, it never actually says what that means, so I can't argue that. But I'll tell you this. I was born 6 weeks early, so I was born at like 7.5 months. I'm thriving. So you notice there's no declaration of what thriving means here. Now, that makes it a tough issue, but there's no declaration there. Then she says the second was a tubal pregnancy, and the third was a heterotopic pregnancy. I was pregnant with twins and had one baby lodged in my tubes, the other in my uterus. Now, those are issues. The baby who's in the tube isn't going to survive. It is going to die, and that's a tough issue. And that one, I'm going to admit, is very tough, and it's a consequence of living in the fallen world that we do. But then notice the second one, lodged in the uterus. And then doctor said, in order to save your life, I'm going to have to abort the non-thriving baby in your tubes. Now, that one you can kind of understand. I'm not talking about that one. And then it says, and then when it came out of surgery, I had to have a fourth abortion because the baby that was in my uterus was no longer thriving as well. And again, notice there's no definition of thriving there. But I'm going to argue that they're completely dead. That's a different issue. And then it's like, see, this is why you need abortion on demand. No, you don't. But that's the one that they're trying to push. Now, how many more are there going to be like that? Let's go to the next lady. Ashley Burnman, Hale, who was 39 at the time. I was living in Utah after finishing college. I'd taken what ultimately became my first big kid tech job, managing content teams and working with developers. When the small company I had been working for bought out by Overstock.com, it became clear that I'd already worked my way up the food chain as high as I could get. And then she takes a shot at Utah's culture. If you notice that there, it's like, why? Because it's Utah, they're misogynistic, whatever. Then she says, then I got pregnant. And then she says, there was never any question about whether I would get an abortion. I came from a broken home situation with a young mom and dad, and I knew I wasn't going to have a family until I felt like I was emotionally and financially stable. The only question was logistics. Notice why. Again, was it rape? No. Was it incest? No. Was life in danger? Absolutely not. There was no life in danger. She's 22. So just so you understand this, I was married at 22. Just putting that in there. So you're an adult. You know what you're doing. Why did she get an abortion? Because she didn't want it to mess up her life. And then it goes into a sad story about her life. But why did she really get one? Because she didn't want the consequence. This lady, 26. Let's pick her up. Jessie Russell is. School came very natural to me. My parents had just come to the U.S. from El Salvador and just before having me and my little sister, and they always told me education was going to be the key to my success, so I kind of knew the path I was heading on. When I had an unwanted pregnancy in my junior year of college at UC Riverside, I knew I couldn't mess that up. But it took me very long to get an abortion. Why? Because I didn't know where to go. Yada, yada, yada. But again, why was she getting an abortion? Well, here's why. Had I not had my abortion, I never would have been able to finish school and get my bachelor's degree. I wouldn't have been able to get these stable salaried jobs with health insurance. Why? Because it wasn't abortion, wasn't rape, wasn't incest, wasn't life in danger. It was because I made a decision to have sex, and I decided that I got pregnant from the natural consequence, the blessing of sex, not a problem, a blessing. And she says, I didn't want to mess up my life. I didn't want that. So I'm going to take care of the child. I'm going to take care of this problem. Again, because of convenience. Let's go here. Mona Das 51. I swear I actually felt the moment of conception. I know those firecrackers that look like ghosts that you throw on the ground and they pop. That's what it felt like a quick burst. Here you go. I was 22 years old. I just graduated from college a few months before, and I had just gotten back together with an old boyfriend who had already cheated on me twice. It was his last-minute decision not to use a condom because he didn't like wearing them. I said, fine, but you have to pull out. I did not want to have a baby. I probably deep down knew. I especially didn't want to have a baby with him. And then someone told me Planned Parenthood. Again, notice, is not rape, not incest, not life in danger. Life choices. Life choices. That's what it was. Let's go over here. Dr. Linda Kim. I was in college and medical school when I had an abortion. There was no catastrophic or tragic reason for it. I just was not emotionally ready to have a child. There you go. Doesn't even hide it. Doesn't even hide it. Eric Peterson. I had my daughter at a pretty young age. I think she was 2 years old when I got pregnant by her father. By then, he had 3 other kids. My daughter was number 4, and this kid would be number 5 for him. Number 5 for him, number 2 for me. I knew I couldn't afford it. I was only 20 years old, living in a low-income housing with my grandmother helping out, and I was working as a casino pull-tab clerk. And I could barely afford to take care of the child I already had. I wasn't about to give my grandmother another mouth to feed. I decided to have an abortion. Do you know where it would have been better off? Not sleeping with the guy again. Look, it sounds like I'm being a little judgmental here. It's the shame that if you actually look, that was... I'm going to take out the medical one because it's unclear what not thriving means. But that's 9 kids who are dead. 9 kids who are dead. 9 kids who are dead on that. But did you notice, 9 out of those 10, because they just felt like it. No medical reason, no rape, no incest. So if I set those aside, which make up less than 1% of all abortions, if I set those aside, they're advocating, what are they pushing at that? They're advocating having a child when you feel like you're not ready. That's just going to mess up your life. So kill the child, and you can become a doctor. Kill the child, you can become a lawyer. Kill the child, you can make 7 figures. Just make sure you kill that child. You say, well, that's not the message. Look, this is the game that they're playing with. I'm going to show you a video here. And this is from an organization called #ShoutYourAbortion. Absolutely disgusting. And I actually went to their YouTube and I started going through. And they have, it's called #ShoutYourAbortion. And they have videos there of people shouting about their abortion. Now, not really shouting, but you know what I mean. It means give a shout at your abortion. And I've watched probably half a dozen to somewhere to a dozen of them, and every single one of them was the exact same. I just wasn't ready. I didn't want a child. I didn't think I was financially ready. I wasn't emotionally ready. I'm just going to get rid of our child. That's every single one. Not medical reasons. Not rape, not incest. I didn't want a child. I didn't want a child. Now, I'm going to play a video for you from that organization, Shout Your Abortion. And I'm only going to play about 2.5 minutes of this 8 video. And I just want you to listen. I want you to pay attention to it. Because I want you to see what it is. And it's ultimately called Abortion is for Everyone, Kids episode. So yeah, they're having this lady come in, and she's going to talk to kids about why abortion is fine. Why abortion is fine. So let's go ahead and play this now.
Do you think that sometimes it's not okay to have an abortion?
I want to say if you're being reckless, if there's nothing wrong going on.
I don't know. I just don't agree.
So what are we here to talk about today?
Well, I had an abortion. Oh. So what do you know, or what have you heard about abortion?
I don't exactly know what happens, but like you go and basically get rid of the baby from inside you.
What have you heard?
That.
Same thing. Have you ever talked to somebody about abortion before?
I actually wrote a paper in 5th grade about it.
Wow. What was
Yeah.
your paper about?
Abortion is okay, and it also depends on like what's happening and why they got the abortion.
So you think it's okay depending on the circumstances?
Yes.
Why did you have an abortion?
A few years ago, I got pregnant, and I really didn't want to have a baby.
May I ask what happened? Did he not wear a condom? Did the condom break? Was it pre-ejaculation?
Such good questions,
Vanessa.
He wasn't wearing a condom.
Why wasn't he wearing a condom?
Have you ever had 2 options and one of them like seems easier at the
Oh
time?
yeah, like you could take a shortcut or you could go the long way.
It was the shortcut
around.
version.
What did your partner think at the time?
You know, I think we were both like bummed out that I got pregnant, and he was just like supportive of what I wanted to do.
Were you reckless at the time?
I mean, I wouldn't really say that I was being reckless. Mistakes happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just don't do that in the moment. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I'm glad.
When you have an abortion, what exactly do you do to like have the abortion?
You go to the doctor and they put this little straw inside of your cervix and then inside of your uterus, and then they just suck the pregnancy out. And it was like a crappy dentist appointment or something. It was just like, this is like a body thing that's kind of uncomfortable, but then it was over and I felt really just grateful that I wasn't pregnant anymore.
All right, I'm going to stop there. The conversation goes on for quite a while. One of the downsides of that, and I actually thought about doing this, is taking the video and putting it together in the proper chronological order. Now, what do I mean by that? Do you notice how it keeps jumping between a couple of sets of people? It jumps between 3 of them. The kid with the afro, the 2 sets of girls, and then the set of girls, and then the girl and the boy. But if you put those together, and I want to unpack a couple of them, because when the video started, did you notice the guy when she asked, "Do you think abortion is okay?" And he says, "Not when you're being reckless," and that took her back. In other words, what was he asking? Now, I don't know how old these youth are. He's obviously over grade 5, because he said I wrote one back in grade 5, but she was taken back by that. But that really comes down to what the issue is. And they don't want to accept this, but this is the reality, and this is what I've shown through all of these things, that they're using abortion as birth control. They are. They use it as birth control. And the girl there in the second one, That was one with the girl and the boy. When she asked the question, well, what happened? Did you use a condom? Did the condom break? Was it pre-ejaculate? Obviously, she's referring to what would be classified as the withdrawal method. Sorry, this episode is not exactly the most kid-friendly episode. These are the actual things that are being talked about. And you notice she said, well, he didn't use a condom. And then when you get the kid with the afro come back and he says, well, were you being reckless? She's like, it's like, no, you were being reckless. You were. What's the natural outcome of sexual intercourse? Pregnancy. Now, there's something that's also a little more fascinating in there. This is why I said I wish it were in order, because it separates it to such the point that you almost miss it if you're not keeping things straight in your head. You got to multitask 3 different conversations in a row. And it's the one that it's with the 2 girls. And when she asked, when she asked the girl, do you know what happens during an abortion? And the girl says, well, not really, but I know that you have the baby and then the baby's taken out of you. And then if you jump to the next segment with those 2, and that's why I said this, the problem is the lady who's talking to him or trying to convince them that abortion is good doesn't refer to it as a baby. She refers to it as a pregnancy. She refuses to say, he took the pregnancy out of me. No, he didn't take the pregnancy out. Pregnancy is a state. It's a state of being, in essence. You are pregnant or you're not pregnant. You don't have pregnancy given to you. You don't have pregnancy taken from you. It is a state of being. If there's a baby, you are pregnant. If there's no baby, you're not pregnant. That's pregnancy. But notice she tries to do it. And then she also is not upcoming with everything. Notice she tries to say it's just about the same as going to the dentist. They just stick a tube up there and they suck the pregnancy out of you. What actually happens is, because a baby's limbs and everything form quite early, is they go up there with the tube and they try to suck out the baby, but they actually rip the thing apart. They rip the arms and the legs off and then try to get the all. And then what she also leaves out is the fact that because you were pregnant, your uterine lining has actually done something and made some changes. So they have to scrape out all of that. Now that happens normally during childbirth. When a woman has a child. I was there for a couple of my wife's births. I missed the last one, taking care of the other 2. And I arrived right after our child was born. Like right after, long enough there to get the tag stuck on me that I'm the father, and then be told, like, your wife is hungry, so go get her something to eat, kind of thing. But in the natural process of childbirth, the woman gives birth to the child. After the child's born, next is the umbilical cord, and then she has to give another push that pushes out all what's classified now as the afterbirth. Well, when an abortion happens, the afterbirth has got to come out too. And so because of that, they have to scrape the uterine lining. Now that's left out of that. She's making it sound like, oh, it's like going in and getting a filling done at a dentist. No, it's not. It's not at all. And in the end, it is the taking of life. But did you notice again that her reasoning behind it? She just wasn't ready. And was he reckless? No, I wasn't reckless. You were reckless. You see, what is being taught now, why I say it's no longer hidden, is this is exactly what was being taught. That it was going to be abortion on demand, and it's going to be used as an escape for consequences. So what is? They want a life without consequences. They want to be able to engage in the very thing that God created as a blessing for a man and a wife, and with the natural consequences, barring some problems, to bring forth children. And children are a blessing. That's what they are. And they want it as a contraceptive. They're not hiding it anymore. It's not being hidden. It's being put out there plain as day. And it's being told in like the debate arguments, they're arguing the side, saying the medical side, the rape, the incest, the mother's life's in danger. Well, in the actual marketplace, they're telling the children, no, it's just a procedure you can have done if you make a mistake, and you happen to get pregnant by mistake. You don't get pregnant by mistake. You get pregnant from a deliberate action. You can't get pregnant by sitting on a toilet seat. You can't get pregnant by sitting on a chair, leaning against something. You can't. It's a deliberate action. But that's what they want anyway. They're not hiding it anymore. They're flat out telling them that abortion is fine. Go ahead. And it's you get pregnant, oh, well, just have an abortion. It's no big deal. And yet they will never tell them that it's the end of a life. That's what they're not hiding anymore. All right. Let's go to our next news story. Since my second one here. All right, there we go. Our next main story here comes from, like I said, you got another UN thing coming up, but it's a return to Mount Sinai. Returning to Mount Sinai. And I want to unpack this a little bit. And I say, what is it that they're not hiding in this episode? What is it that they're not hiding? Well, really what they're not hiding here is the building of a new religion is really what it is. The building of a new religion. It's no secret that they're using Mount Sinai. Now, what is Mount Sinai? They'll actually talk about this a little bit in the article. Mount Sinai is the place, if you're familiar with the Bible, where Moses went up and he received the 10 Commandments. Then Moses went up there on Mount Sinai after leading the children of Israel out of Egypt at God's command by God's mighty hand and God's mighty power and through the Red Sea. And then they came to Mount Sinai. Moses went up there for 40 days. He was up there for 40 days. And the only other one who was able to even come close to him was his servant and aide, Joshua, who became the next leader. And so Moses went up there and he received the 10 Commandments, is what it was. That's really what it is. Now, let's unpack this. Let's read a little bit of this article. Between November 6th and the 18th, 2022, so coming up here in a week or two, the UN Climate Conference, COP27, will take place on the Sinai Peninsula. The COP27 UN Conference is Climate Conference. That's what it is. You see there, it's the Climate Conference. Religious communities and religious leaders have a key role to play in addressing climate change and climate justice, which requires deep transformation within society. Now, I'm going to question a little bit here. What is climate justice? I know somebody will fill me in on that. Justice is when somebody has committed a crime, and therefore justice is the punishment has to be done. There's a price to be paid. So what's the climate justice? Is if I threw a piece of garbage on the ground or a receipt got out of my pocket and blew away, and technically I littered it, am I going to be arrested now? Something's going to happen here? What's going to happen? See, it's a fascinating thing. It says, which requires deep transformation within society. The knowledge of what changes are critically needed to diminish long-term harm to the planet is readily available. However, bringing about change in action demands deeper changes in attitude, a change of heart. This has been the domain of religions for millennia. Religions are sources of inspiration for transformation of heart and ensuing changes of attitude. Now I'm going to argue right there, there's a problem there. The true heart can only be changed through the Spirit of God, not through following religious problems. This is why you can find people who were a certain way, who commit sins, and then they find religion. They find religion, but then eventually go right back, because religion can't bring about a true change. Religion can never bring about true change. Rules and regulations can never bring about a true change within the person. Only the Spirit of God can. This is to support, challenge, and inspire discussions during the COP27 at Sharm el-Sheikh. A weekend event will be held at Mount Sinai that will be heart-stirring, transformative, and a moment of inspiration for religious communities and for humanity. Yeah, sure it will. Never before has such an interreligious climate repentance ceremony, notice what it is, a climate repentance ceremony, has been undertaken. From this moment and event, motivation and for action emerges, calling for re-examination of deep-seated attitudes and for identifying ways to transform these attitudes for the well-being of Earth, our common home. Yeah, there's a lot there. Yeah, deep-seated attitudes. What deep-seated attitudes? Well, there is an attitude, I guess, in places where like the Earth is ours, I can do whatever I want with it, and yeah, I don't hold to that at all, kind of thing. But I think they over-exaggerate where certain issues are. But the thing here is they're making it a religious thing, a religion. Say, well, no, they're not. Well, yes, they are. They're making it a religion. They are. Let's continue. I'll show how. Over the weekend of November 12th to 13th, so a couple of Sundays away, a couple of weekends away, few official discussions on or activities are planned at COP27. This provides a major moment when the attention of media and participants can be turned to interreligious climate messaging and a transformative vision. On Sunday, November 13th, religious leaders will return on Mount Sinai, a mountain whose memory and meaning loom large as a large place of revelation in the collective consciousness of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and others. As an ancient sacred space, it was the site of the prophetic experience and receiving God's message from the prophets Moses and Elijah in all three Abrahamic traditions and the prophet Muhammad in Muslim traditions. It therefore serves as an ideal location to remind humanity of our sacred responsibility to care for God's creation. Yeah, now that's fascinating. Now, why is that fascinating? Well, let's go first. To care for God's creation. Don't they spend the longest time in schools and universities and television shows and everything to say that there is no God? Don't they? That everything came by accident, everything happened by a fluke chance, that nothing created everything, absolutely nothing. In the beginning there was nothing, and nothing suddenly collapsed on itself, and nothing exploded, created everything. So how is it God's creation in that mind frame? Think about that. So they're already playing a double entendre here. So how's it God's creation? But it is God's creation. But you notice what it is here, how they said. It was a place of divine revelation. That's what it is. An ancient sacred space. It was the site of a prophetic experience and receiving God's message. So in other words, these religious leaders from all religious communities, from various faiths, are going to come together and they're going to get God's message and proclaim it to you. That God's now message is no longer do not kill, do not steal, do not commit adultery, do not bear false witness. It's no longer you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself graven images. It's no longer honor your father and mother. It is now all about climate change. You're going to get a brand new revelation from God. The new religion is not going to be pointing towards Jesus Christ. It's going to be pointed towards climate, the world, Mother Earth, Gaia, the life stream. Take your pick. Although all those things are fake, that's what it's going to be pointed towards. Let me show you. We come to Sinai in a movement of repentance and quest. We seek a new vision for humanity and its endangered existence, and we seek to receive and amplify a message of life-sustaining living and habits that humanity needs to hear today. In this spirit, the project partners will bring together premier religious leaders from the world's major religions to gather upon Mount Sinai to engage in a first-ever climate repentance ceremony and to put forth a prophetic, interreligious call to action. Here's what it's called: Climate Justice 10 Universal Commandments. They're not just looking just to build this thing as, here's how we can, as a think tank, come and do and have and take care of the world and better take care of it. They're setting it up as this is the new religion. A new religion. This is what's been happening over the last year with the Interfaith Conference that happened in September, with the in correspondence with the UN that most people kind of overlooked, where they say no one's allowed to tell anybody else that their faith is wrong, so don't you dare evangelize. Now you've got them re-going up Mount Sinai, or at least their tradition site of Mount Sinai, and coming back down with new 10 commandments, supposedly from God. This is a religion. Because it's supposed to bring about the change of heart. We see a new vision for humanity. The vision of humanity hasn't changed. The vision of humanity has always been to look towards Jesus Christ, to become a new creation in Him. That's what it is. But no. It's about a new vision for humanity and its endangered existence. Look, I agree the world's going to end. It is. But our reasoning is very different. It says the call's originality in compiling the finest teachings of all religions in support of climate justice draws inspiration from the great prophetic figures associated with Mount Sinai. That's going to be fascinating. If I go by the ones that they talked about, Moses and Elijah. Moses, Mount Sinai, you can maybe make a case for it if you go back to creation, but then you've got to acknowledge that the earth was created by God for a purpose. So do they really want to do that? But then there's Elijah. I don't remember Elijah doing anything when it came to climate, unless you want to talk about the fact that Elijah forbade it to rain and caused a drought. And then after the events of Mount Carmel, which is Mount Carmel, not Mount Sinai, he prayed for God and it rained. So, what are you going to draw from that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Teaching the spiritual ideas will be highlighted in order to help religious communities and humanity at large open their hearts to change for our collective survival. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not even possible. This idea of collective survival, humanity is getting weaker genetically. That's scientifically proven. So, if you want to hold that, this idea of climate change and the climate's going to destroy the world, in the end, if climate doesn't kill us, genetics will. Not that I hold either of those things, but I firmly believe something else will happen long before those things happen. But yeah, the ceremony will draw from liturgies, readings from the musical traditions of diverse religions. The event will incorporate concrete examples of how religious communities are actively meeting the climate challenge and feature concrete initiatives that translate the broader spiritual practices into action. Like I said, it's not just a call to action here. That is a new religion. They're not even hiding it anymore. They're not even hiding that they want a religion without God, a religion without Christ, a religion without the cross. They want to rally people around something else. And it's got nothing to do with morality. It's got nothing to do with salvation or sin, unless it's a climate sin. They're saying there's going to be it's a new religion with a new 10 commandments given by God to take care of his creation. And the sin that you're going to commit is the sin of polluting the world. So you're driving a car, well, you sin. You use plastic bag, well, you're sinning. You're not using renewable sources, well, you're sinning. You used too much electricity, you're sinning. You got too many cows, you're sinning. Yeah. Now, I'm being a little facetious there. I don't know if that's really where it's going to go, but it seems to be the indication. Especially when I look at things like Europe adopting by 2035, it'll be illegal to sell gas-powered vehicles. That's an actual article. You can look that one up. So it's not a call to renew your faith in Christ. It's a call to a new religion completely. And it is one that is absolutely horrible because it's one that is without the cross. And that's a major problem. They're not even hiding it anymore. And that's the issue. All right. We're going to take a break there. I give you a lot to think about, a lot to kind of work through, let you absorb that a little bit. Come on back after the break, and I am going to talk a little bit about the earth. We're going to look at it from a biblical perspective and see exactly what is going on. So join me on back after our break here, after our commercial. And always remember, pureflix.com, great place where you can pick up some wholesome entertainments. We'll come back after the break as we continue in this. They're not even hiding it anymore. Oh man, I'm bored. Can't hope. I just want to find a good movie to watch. What about you? Yeah, there's plenty of TV, but yeah, I want something a little better. Go with a movie. Yeah, I know, but I really kind of want more family-friendly films. I know there's Netflix, I know there's Disney, but you know, their ratings are messed up. Yeah, we've got plenty of streaming services, you got them there, but the ratings aren't good. What they say is PG. Really, I wouldn't let my kids watch. I can't find a movie now without swearing in it that's not on Netflix. Even when it's G, it's got a woke agenda to it. Yeah, I can't even trust what they say is G or PG anymore without language. You know, I heard that there was a Christian streaming service out there. Really? It's been around for a while. Why haven't I heard of it? Yeah, it's called pureflix.com. Like Netflix, but Christian films. Pureflix, huh? Well, what do they got on there? Every show on there, there's Christian films. You got shows like The Encounter, God's Not Dead is on there. You've got Sue Thomas FBI, you got series there. You even got stuff for the kids, like Hermie the Common Caterpillar, the old shows, McGee and Me, VeggieTales. It's all available on there on Pureflix. What can I watch it on? Well, that's the beauty of it. You can watch it on a lot of devices. You can watch it on using the Xbox by getting the app on. You can get it through iPads or your phone or even a Roku TV. It's all available there. That sounds great. Let's go check out PureFlix and enjoy good, wholesome entertainment tonight. PureFlix.com. You can have a monthly subscription. You can have a yearly subscription. You can try it out now. I encourage it for the whole family. If you're tired of Netflix and Disney putting their agendas in their latest films, go back and watch wholesome entertainment. PureFlix.com. Available even now, anywhere in Canada and the United States. All right, welcome back to our second half here. They're not even hiding it anymore. Although we're kind of leaving that topic a little bit. We're going to be going on to something a little bit different. It has to tie in with our last story. But once again, I just want to encourage you about PureFlix. If you're looking for something, and I know it's a little bit more pricey, it is. But actually, if you get like Stack TV on Amazon Prime, it's not a whole lot more than Stack TV. I think Stack TV is something like $9.99 or $12.99, something like that, for that channel. And I think Prime is like $14 a month. But I encourage you. It's a good streaming service, good clean. I enjoy it myself, and I have it myself of the streaming services. Let's cut back to music and tell you what we're going to be doing here. I said we're going to be continuing on a little bit all about the idea of Earth. As I talked before the break there, the climate summit, or the religious climate summit, and talking about Earth. And here's the thing about it. I firmly do believe that humanity should be taking care of the Earth. But here's why. It's a little different. Yes, God created the heavens and the earth. We're going to talk about that. We're going to follow the history of the earth. Believe it or not, the history of the earth is actually written out within the scriptures. It can explain what exactly is going on and all that. And it's, despite what some people want to think, it actually is kind of scientifically backed up, and I can back it up that way. So we're going to talk about that. But I do believe that Christians should be looking to take care of the earth, but for something different. And the reason that we should is because, as the psalmist wrote, the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, or everything in it. And if it is God's, and we should be taking care of it as an act of worship. So we're going to unpack the world today. Now, that seems like a lot, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to unpack the world. As we kind of study a little bit here, I like to give you some firm foundation to stand on. It is what I like to do. And so always, if you're the first time joining here, I thank you for that. In the second half of the show, after the break, I like to do teaching, helping you to build on the solid foundation. See, the first half is all about seeing where the attacks are coming from, and training you and helping you to develop eyes to see it. And so that you can be aware of it and to stop cracks from forming in the foundation of your faith. That is there. And so so that's what we do in the first half. The second half, it's about building the foundation, helping you to be strong and secure on it so that you will not be moved. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the world. We're going to talk about the earth here in this second half. We're going to unpack it a little bit. And so since I want to talk about the world, I need to go back all the way to creation. And see, that's what I kind of slammed a little bit in that article about the conference coming up there, the Mount Sinai idea, is that the first thing it has to acknowledge is that the earth is created, and that people don't want to accept that. And the reason, honestly, it comes down to people not wanting to accept that God created everything is they don't want to accept there's a God. But actually, people are okay with the idea of a God. What they're not okay with, when you really break it down, is they're not okay with the fact that if God is there and God created all things, it means God is also in the position to determine what is right and what is wrong, to set the moral law and to set the consequences for breaking that moral law. And that's what people really don't want. So that's why they want to change it. Now, what's really fascinating is I was playing a game with the youth the other day, is what I was doing. And the game was, guess where this song comes from. Guess where the music comes from. And they did actually pretty good. They were from movies and TV shows. Some popular movies, some TV shows are older. And one of the ones that came in as I was setting it up was this theme song. I'm going to play it just a little bit here. And it was this theme song. See if you know where it is.
Wind, water, heart, go planet! By your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. Captain Planet, he's our hero.
All right, I'm just going to stop that there. Just a little bit there. Yeah, it was from the old cartoon Captain Planet. And I said this to some people after that. I said, I'm actually surprised that cartoon hasn't made a return. And why? Because it fits right in with the agenda of the day. I'm guessing it fits right in with that conference. But in that, if you unpack the world of Captain Planet, you had a character that was played by Whoopi Goldberg. That was Gaia, the spirit of the earth. This idea that the world's alive. That's what I said. I'm surprised it hasn't made a comeback. That there's something that we gotta deal with, that kind of thing. But I want to unpack, as I said, the real Earth, because the history of the Earth is found in the Scriptures, and man's duty in it. So to begin this, I need to go back, as I said, all the way to the beginning, Genesis chapter 1. I'm not going all the way back to Genesis 1:1, but I want to pick up with the creation of man. Why do I want to pick up the creation of man? Because man's duty is placed in this. This is why I said on Mount Sinai, in that Mount Sinai Accord, what they're going to go with. And so they're going to draw from all the religious leaders who had the experiences on there. And I said, I don't know where they're going to go with Elijah, but Moses, I can kind of see it, because here's why. I'm going to read here. Genesis 1:26-31. Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Then God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And then God says, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed, to you shall be for your food. And to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth in which there is life. I have given every green herb for food. And it was so. Then God saw everything that he had made, and it was indeed very good. So it was evening, and the morning were the sixth day. Now, it's a very important section. Why? Because it talks about male and female, that God created them, which isn't a very popular notion in today's culture, but it is there. But it says the purpose of man. Let's make man in our image. Just talking about the Godhood there, the Trinity of God. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Spirit. That helps us understand it a little bit. So man is created in their image, in the image of God. And look what it says. Let him have dominion of it. Of what? The fish, the birds, the cattle, over all the earth, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. And then when God created man, he comes back and he tells him to do this. Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over a living thing that moves on the earth. Notice there's a double requirement there, a double thing that is there. The first thing that I want to touch on here, because this one's going to come up with a climate crisis, and this one is what it is. And you can find this with, I think it's called Agenda 2030. One of the goals that they would love is to reduce the population of the earth. Now, that's a little bit of a conspiracy theory. I admit that, because until that actually happens. But you can actually see it. This is why they encourage things such as abortion. Because it lowers the population. People aren't giving birth as much. This is why they want that kind of thing. And to bring it down. And they'll say, why? So we have more sustainability, that kind of thing. And that's there. But you look, it says, be fruitful and multiply. That man was supposed to have children. Man was supposed to multiply and fill the earth. That the most populated thing was supposed to be humanity. And humanity's job was to rule the earth, to take care of it. Now, I want to be clear here. This was not dominate. Man was not called to dominate the earth. And what I mean by that is people who have this idea, and this is where you get a false idea, is that, well, the earth is now man, so therefore we can do whatever we want with it. There's nobody can tell me otherwise. And therefore I can do anything I want. That's the saying. That's absolutely false. But this is also why I have a problem with the same argument against that. It's the same problem I have with the idea of evolutionists trying to tell me that I can't pollute the earth. There's no basis for it. You see, if God created everything, then ultimately it belongs to him. And then for man, we're not to dominate. We're just to tend to it, subdue it, have dominion over it, to rule over it, to care for it. You got to remember, the Bible's regulations of ruling is not the one that humanity has. When Jesus spoke to his disciples and he says, do not rule over one another as the Gentiles do or the heathen does, with force, with heavy burden, with heavy laden. It's like, but rather, if you want to be great in God's kingdom, be the servant. So the humanity, when it says in the call of humanity to have dominion over the fish, over the birds, over every living thing, over all the animals, over the earth, it wasn't to take them and do whatever we wanted with them. It was, in essence, to serve, to look after, to tend, to care. And in fact, you can unpack that a little more when it talks specifically and focuses on the creation of Adam, the first man from the dust. Hence his name means dust. And he says, God created a garden east in Eden and put the man there to tend it and take care of it. That was humanity's job. And this too is an act of worship. So yeah, I'm all for Christians getting on board with things such as recycling, taking care of things, taking care of animals, taking care of habitats, so that the other animals can thrive. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. The man was supposed to have dominion over this. But something happened. Something happened, and this is where something issues come in. Humanity fell into sin, but without the understanding of the doctrines of Genesis, you wouldn't grasp this. Sin brought in, and sin cursed not only man, but everything man had dominion over. And in fact, if you look at the curses of Genesis 3 that are on the woman and the man, they go directly to the blessings or the duties of mankind. They do. For the woman, she was, I will greatly increase your pain in childbearing. And childbearing was supposed to be a blessing, to fill the earth, to be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. And that became part of the curse, not the blessing. So now it's with great pain that women bring forth children. With men who were designed to tend the ground, take care of it, to look after it. It says, now the ground will produce thorns and thistles by the sweat of your brow. Instead of it being a joy, it becomes a chore. And this is a problem to anyone who's gardened. You know this. You're fighting against weeds and thorns and thickets. And I hate when my garden produces those thorns and you're trying to go and one of my sons who's coming to pick tomatoes and a thorn grew right beside. He's like, that's thorny. I said, yeah, Daddy's got to remove that. I had thorns and thistles. So something happened to creation as well. When man fell into sin, everything that was under his dominion also fell. And it became broken or cracked, fractured, if you will. God created it perfect. God created it very good, but sin has left a stain on it. Sin has cracked it, and that's the world we now live in. This is why we have things such as, ultimately, we have things such as earthquakes, typhoons, we have hurricanes, tornadoes. This is why these things happened. But something more continues to on with the earth. Something's going on. So let's go to another verse. This one might seem a little strange, but I'm going to be jumping into Genesis chapter 7. And in Genesis chapter 7, it begins a record of the flood. Now, the flood account starts in Genesis 6 and goes to Genesis 9. But something happened here, and I want to point it out. It says, and it came to pass 7 days that the waters of the flood... after 7 days that the waters of the flood were on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, on that day. Now notice two things happen. The fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were open. And the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. It's that phrase from verse 11. The fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. Two things happened there in the flood. Rain came down and rain came up. Now, I don't mean it rained upward. And what happened is, and science has confirmed this as well, that beneath the crust of the earth is water. A lot of water. Enough to fill the oceans many, many times over. And so you've probably heard the idea of Pangea. Pangea. If you're not familiar with Pangea, Pangea is the idea that all the continents of the earth actually formed one cohesive landmass at one point in history. And when you look at a map and how the Earth's been mapped out and things like that, it looks like it could all just fit together. It really could all fit together. And so we say, well, does the Bible say that? Does the Bible fight against that? Well, actually, it almost the Bible could support this. Where the fountains of the deep break open, the water that was underneath the ground burst forth, came up from underneath, and unleashed its torrent from the bottom for 40 days. And what would happen is the plates of the earth would move, they would shift, they would crash together. There would be earthquakes under this pressure, under this weight. And you would have things form such as mountains and canyons under this great pressure. And the water above, you say, well, there's not much water above. When God created the world, he created a canopy, it says, above. You can see that on the second day of creation. And this let go. And so you literally had water coming from the top, water coming from below. The great pressure of all that water would create a torrential of problems. It would create the plates to move. It would create destruction. And when even the water subsides, do you know what it eventually would create? An ice age. It would. An ice age is not unbiblical. It actually fits in with it. It's just the timeline is very, very different. And this is why you're going to find it within many studies where they want to get away from a global flood. Why? Because a global flood would mess up their timelines. You say, how would it mess up their timelines? If they're teaching that the earth is 6 billion years old or 65 billion years, however they want to say, 6, 7 billion years old, they do it based on certain things. But a great pressure of water changes that. It changes it increasingly severe. Where they've had like small canyons formed out from torrential downpours and a flood even over a couple of days created things. Where an earthquake and volcanic eruptions change the land face so much that as I said, literally new canyons are formed. That's why Mount St. Helens eruption is such an important detail, because it shows how quickly the topography of the land can change. And if the waters burst forth, it changes. And with the canopy above being released, this would change the atmosphere drastically. As I said, an ice age is not unheard of in this case. It just wouldn't be millions and millions of years old, millions and millions of years long. We're actually in a process of warming up from it. That's actually what's going on. And so all this has taken place. And what would happen? Well, the balance is thrown off. Storms would happen. Earthquakes, typhoons, air changes, causing tornadoes. This is all it's from. It shows what's going on with the earth, because the earth has been fractured because of sin. And in fact, the scriptures back this up. Let me go over to Romans chapter 8. And look what the scriptures, the Apostle Paul writing here in his greatest, it's called his greatest theological works. He had the most time to sit down and think about it. It's most thought out theological work. And he says, for the earnest expectation of the creation eagerly waits for the revealing of the sons of God. What's it talking about there? The revealing of the sons of God is talking about when the sons of God remove their sin nature. And all that remains is the new creation. Now, don't think I'm talking about some New Age idea or Scientology idea of shedding these things. And Scientology would be like the shedding of the thetans that you've got to do. Or the New Age thing, you just got to get rid of your past self. You got to unleash the true self. No. This will happen when Christ returns. It says, when the trumpet blasts, we who remain, 1 Corinthians 15, in the twinkling of an eye will be changed. And that's what it's referring to. That's what Paul's referring to. He's talking about when Jesus comes back, he returns. That those who are faith in Christ, they'll be changed in an instant. In the twinkling of an eye, they'll be changed into the glorious body, which is found only because of the resurrection of Christ. And it'll be similar to the resurrected body that Jesus had. So that's what it's talking about. So it says, for creation was subject to futility. What does that mean? It means it was subject to. It didn't desire it. It didn't happen by chance. It didn't happen because of this idea of evolution. It happened because sin entered in. Because humanity sinned, creation was subject to futility. Not willingly. In other words, it was subject to it because of sin. Sin brought in and brought the change. That's what is happening here. says, but because of him who subjected it in hope, because the creation itself will also be delivered. That's an important thing. Be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. It's going to enjoy when this, in other words, when the children of God are transformed, the world gets it too. Or in other words, when the children of God get the fullness of salvation. We have salvation now. We have the salvation that is guaranteed, but the scripture says we have the down payment of it, to the guarantee of salvation. We're sealed with the down payment, the Holy Spirit. When that is fully realized at Christ's coming, the world itself will be released from the bondage. This is what we're seeing on in the world. Why are there storms? Why are there problems? Why are there diseases? It's all because creation has been subjected to corruption. That's what is happening here. See, I don't deny climate change. I don't deny that the climate is changing. I deny the reason why. See, the climate scientists will argue that it's man-made. It's man's problem. Man has caused this. And so therefore man has to turn the table itself. Look, the reason what is happening in the world, I'm not saying man doesn't have a part of it. I'm not saying it's that we shouldn't do what we can to take care of the world. I've already argued that we should. But what is actually happening here is the world is got the disease of sin. That's what it has. That's just the world is dying. Because of sin. The corruption of sin is death. With that corruption becomes disease, sickness, death. This is what is happening to the world. And it says further, we know that the whole creation groans and labors with the birth pains until now. That's an important deal, birth pains, which means something will be born, something it's coming forward to. So as we see the earth suffer in this way, as we see these things grow in intensity, it points us closer and closer to the time of the coming of Christ. This is not only that, but we also who have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, eagerly waiting for the adoption, the redemption of our bodies. There you go, the fullness of it, what is coming. So what is going on in our world is exactly what the Scriptures foretold. And so instead of people wanting to accept that, what is happening is they want to devise basically a new religion. Hence why you see them going up Mount Sinai again, trying to get this new revelation. Now, a while back, a couple of years ago, I was teaching on the book of Revelation. And it was something that kind of struck out to me as I was studying it. Somebody else noticed it too, given the questions and given the climate of our day. No pun there with climate change, but I mean the idea of people, how people are themselves. And it was this. I want to read a little bit here. It's going to be a little bit longer passages, but they're from Revelation. Revelation chapter 8 and Revelation chapter 16. I want to go visit those for a little bit. And it's the trumpets, okay? And I want you to look a little bit at the trumpets. The first trumpet says, the first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. Now, what would cause that? Hail and fire. Now, is that literal or is it figurative? Well, I don't think there's any reason to doubt that it's literal. Yeah, the first angel sounded. No, well, we hear that's a different detail. But hail and fire followed mingled with blood. Is that physically possible? Sure it is. What happens if volcanoes erupted? Massive ones. And through its lava, and through its rocks into the air that were still hot, it would come down, it would burn. And you argue, wait, climate change, we've changed the climate so much that these things happened. Now, it could be the exact opposite. It could just be hail and fire came down from the sky. The second trumpet sounded. Like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. And you can say, what would that? A meteor. Climate change. Climate happens. Then the third angel sounded a trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch. It fell on a third of the rivers and a third of the springs. The name of the star is wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, or bitter. And many men died from the water because it was made bitter, or poisonous. You could argue that when you're starting to look at this, you're looking for a logical we'll say, we'll go in this case, a scientific explanation without the supernatural. Let me redefine that. If you're looking for a naturalistic explanation, it's like climate change. Why not? We poisoned our own water because we couldn't get away from nuclear power. We couldn't get away from coal power. So we poisoned the water. And then look, it says the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened, and a third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. You look at that detail. That could happen. You say, well, because of man, because they've done this thing. They brought climate change. Now I want to go down to Revelation 16 here a little bit. These are called the bowl judgments. It says, so the first went and poured his bowl upon the earth, and a foul and loathsome sores came upon the men who had the mark of the beast and worshipped his image. Now that one, you might not claim climate change, but you could. It says the second angel poured out his bowl on the sea. It became blood. It all became blood. Climate change. The third angel poured his bowl on the rivers and springs of water, and they became blood. Now you could say, well, they'll say it wasn't really blood, but say it's something else. It's the algae. The fourth angel poured his bowl in the sun. It was given the power to scorch men with fire. Look, we destroyed our atmosphere. We destroyed the ozone layer. Climate change. Climate change. Darkness came. Fifth bowl. Euphrates River dried up. The water's drying up. This is all climate change. So in other words, what my point is, although I'm digging at climate change here a little bit, is the point that the world is headed towards these things. When I said this is the history of the world, it started out good. It started out great. Very good. God created it very good. Then man, who had dominion over it, fell into sin, and because of that, this creation itself was subject to futility, not willingly, because of sin, and it became fractured. It became to corruption, and these things are happening. What brought about such catastrophic climate change? Well, a global flood where it burst from below and above would bring about a lot of these problems. And you can find a lot of articles, plug in there, Creation Ministries International, over 10,000 academic articles written by PhD people with PhDs, who are experts in their fields. If you're going to call me an expert, I'm an expert in theology. They're experts in their fields of geology, of physics, of all of that, of biology. They're there. You can check that out. Just type in global flood. Go to Creation Ministries or creation.com or search Creation Ministries International and search up global flood in their search function. I encourage you to do that. And this happens. But this is where the world's going. It happened. And it is continuing to happen. And it's going to get worse. That's kind of what I'm showing there. Although they're judgments of God, it's going to be shown. The earth itself is going to be subject to the judgments. But I don't want to leave you without hope because there's an end here. And I'm going to jump to Revelation 21. It says, now I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no more sea. There's going to be a new creation. A new creation is coming. Where the old earth, now what is the old earth? There'll be no more pain, no more sorrow, no more curse. We're coming up on Christmas here, and one of the Christmas songs that's coming. I know people are like, it hasn't even been Halloween yet. Look, I don't care if we skip Halloween. I don't like Halloween. I don't celebrate Halloween. A lot of people do. I could not care less if Halloween was canceled. We never had it again. That's a story for another time. But coming up on Christmas, and one of the songs that gets sung at Christmas is Joy to the World. But if you look at Joy to the World and the lyrics of Joy to the World, it's not actually a Christmas song. It's an Advent song. Now, Advent simply means coming. So the Advent of Christ. But look at some of the lyrics here of Joy to the World. Joy to the world, the Lord has come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare her room. Let heaven and nature sing. You're probably used to that one. Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let all their songs employ, while fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains repeat the sounding joy. Verse 3, He rules the world with truth and grace and makes the nations prove the glories of His righteousness and wonders of His love. Continue on. Joy to the world, the Lord has come. Let earth receive her King. Oh, I repeated that. That's not the full song. Where's the full song? Sung by Celtic women. They changed it. Let me put the full hymn. Gotta put the full things in here. They started repeating it. Okay. He gave me the same one. Stop giving me the same one. That's the problem with Google. Google actually sorts it the way they want to sort things. And trust me, I know. If you don't believe that, go look up like DuckDuckGo or Bing and put a search in and put the same one in Google and see what happens. All right. Verse 3. This is what they were skipping. No more let sin and sorrows grow, nor thorns infest the ground. He comes to make his blessings flow, far as the curse is found. That's the verse that they were leaving out. That is proof. It's a second coming. It's a second coming song. It looks forward. And when we celebrate Christmas, we should be looking forward to the second advent. That's what should be going on here. No more let sin and sorrows grow, nor thorns infest the ground. That is exactly the curse. That's the curse. And it's going to be overturned. Creation will be made new. You said, what does the new earth look like? That's why I started with Genesis 1. Because it's going to look exactly like Genesis 1. It will be very good. A place that is very, very good. And don't overlook it. And so I wanted to talk just about the history of the earth from beginning to end. To strengthen your faith a little bit. To strengthen the foundation. To make you more assured in it. Because that's what I'm all about. That when those challenges come, when those hardships come, when their false teaching comes, when these false things are trying to create like almost a new religion about earth worship, that we will stand firm. That we will be on that solid foundation and not let it be chipped away. So I hope you continue to grow in it. I hope you grow and be strong on it. All right, I'm going to end there for the day. Again, I thank you for joining me here. If there's any discussion, conversation, you can write to me at pastorstephenteed@gmail.com or write into the comments on YouTube if they still allow me to be there after a little bit. They've been coming after pretty hard the last little bit. I'll try to post the last episode on there, but they pulled episode 3, and they pulled one from season 1. And said it was misinformation, that kind of thing, when it wasn't. But if you write any information there, write to me, Pastor Stephen Teed, Stephen with a V, at gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to discuss with you. But until next time, may the Lord bless you, keep you, may lift his countenance on you, and may he make his face shine upon you and give you his peace. And may you build on the solid foundation of Jesus Christ.